Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Oh, I forgot a couple waves that we had this morning. Thank you for joining us. If you are new to the program, you see that number on the bottom of the screen. You can reach out at any time. We got a comment from a viewer early this morning. Good morning. Well, good morning. Looks like Elise might run. I got a text from her asking for contributions. Fingers crossed. Yes, a lot of people have been patiently waiting for Elise Stefanik to announce whether or not she'll run for governor of New York State. She had originally said she would wait until after the election, but she also said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So we do have some New York updates, such as Eric Adams dropping out of the mayoral race. Your thoughts on that? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. The sad news about the deranged madman who killed at least 4 people and wounded 8 others at a Michigan Latter-day Saints church. We learned that he is a 40-year-old Iraq War veteran who served in the United States Marines. Thomas Jacob Sanford rammed his Chevy Silverado truck into the building before opening fire on worshipers yesterday during the service at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township, Michigan. The vehicle had 2 large American flags behind the cab and a set of deer antlers attached to the bumper. He also set the church ablaze, causing the entire structure to burn down. Authorities fear there may be more victims in the fire. A Facebook post by Sanford's mother says the gunman who died at the scene in a shootout with cops served in Iraq from 2004 to 2008. He was killed minutes after the first 911 call came in. A Department of Natural Resources officer and a local township cop responded to the scene in about 30 seconds, according to authorities. Authorities later confirmed that Sanford, from nearby Burton, Michigan, is the lone suspect. The source of the blaze was not immediately known, but sources told the Post that authorities found improvised explosive devices on church property, which a bomb squad was investigating. A bomb squad is also searching Sanford's home. Cops said there were hundreds of worshipers inside the church when the attack began, with aerial footage showing an enormous plume of choking black smoke rising up from the structure as it burned. Social media accounts believed to be connected to Sanford shows he's a family man with a wife and young son. A dormant GoFundMe page from 2015 raised more than $3,000 for the couple's now 10-year-old son, who was born with CHI, a rare genetic condition where the pancreas releases too much insulin. An unnamed witness told Fox 2 Detroit that the attack started at just after the congregational hymn, when hundreds of people were inside the building for the 10 a.m. service. Churchgoers reportedly heard a loud bang as the attacker crashed his truck into the church. We at first thought someone had accidentally crashed into the church, so we went out to help him, said one of the men in the church. Paul Kirby, who also ran outside to render assistance, believing to be an accident, told the New York Times he saw the man getting out of the truck from about 10 to 20 yards away before he realized what was happening. He started shooting at me, said Kirby. So that is all the information we have right now, but that was a breaking news story from yesterday. Our thoughts and prayers with those worshipers and those affected by that deranged madman shooting up the church. Okay, we've got quite a few updates from last week. Yes, we are going to talk about Eric Adams. Your thoughts on Adams dropping out? Some are speculating. We're going to talk about this more later on in the program. Some are speculating that Sliwa may also back out. I find that hard to believe. I don't believe that he will. But we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But it is time for an update from Escalator Gate. A big pet peeve of mine is putting gate at the end of everything. But Escalator Gate, the U.S. left's hatred of Trump and the right has now gone global, according to Victor Davis Hanson. President Donald Trump just visited the UN to offer a customary annual presidential address. Before he arrived, there were reports that UN staffers had joked about shutting down the escalator to chastise Trump for cutting out aid to some UN programs. Upon arrival, as if on cue, Trump was met by a series of mysterious coincidences. As soon as he and First Lady Melania mounted the escalator, it suddenly froze, forcing them to walk up. Other escalators worked just fine. Shortly afterward, the supposed broken escalator was just as mysteriously running again. When Trump went to the podium, his teleprompter mysteriously quit. And his alone, just his. As he delivered his speech from a text, the amplification in parts of the assembly was mysteriously lowered to levels that no one could hear. Despite UN denials, all three, quote, accidents were too closely tied to Trump to be a coincidence. But they remind us that the left-wing hatred of the president has gone global, even after two near-successful assassination attempts. The House of Representatives recently offered a resolution honoring the life and legacy of the conservative organizer Charlie Kirk, murdered by a leftist assassin. The left both feared and hated Kirk. Why? He had been singularly successful in redirecting youth's natural rebelliousness against the status quo onto the ruling liberal establishment. Kirk was winning over a new generation of young Americans to be counterculturalists and counter-revolutionaries. He urged them to question the entire left-wing orthodoxy of higher education, corporate media, and popular culture. The ruling institutions of baby boomers had enshrined as the current establishment. His singular success may be why the terrified left attacked him as much after his death as they had while he was alive. The House effort had followed an earlier bipartisan unanimous resolution honoring a Democratic Minnesota state legislator and her husband, recently murdered by an anti-abortionist assassin. But unlike that earlier commemoration, unanimously passed by all Democrats and Republicans, Kirk's resolution was variously opposed by over 118 Democrat House members. The new radical Democrats, who increasingly control the party, such as Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Jasmine Crockett, were vocal in smearing the resolution, but they went well beyond voting no by gratuitously slandering the late Charlie Kirk as a racist and all-around toxic person not worthy of any commemoration. The common denominator to all these hateful outbursts was their venomous ignorance, given that they either never referenced anything Kirk actually said and wrote or quoted him accurately. And that's one of the problems, and they do this with Trump as well, where they say he says such bad things and then they'll not quote him or take it out of context. The race-obsessed Crockett whined that, quote, only 2 Caucasians had opposed the resolution commemorating Kirk's life. But this was another lie, since the majority of Democrats expressed their opposition either by voting no, 58, abstaining by voting present, 38, or by not voting at all, 22. Thus, contrary to Crockett's trademark racist ranting, the majority of Democrat House members who opposed the resolution included far more than 2 Caucasians. And even if she were honest in her radicalized world of hate, would it have been more racist if only 2 Caucasians had opposed the resolution? Or if the vast majority of the Hispanic and black caucuses in block fashion had overwhelmingly and disproportionately condemned Kirk and the resolution? This increasing coarseness of the left follows its recent canonization of the murderer Luigi Mangione. The left-wing media also suffocated news stories about the horrific, lethal throat slitting of immigrant Irina Zruska by 14-time felon DeCarlos Brown. Violent attacks on immigration and customs enforcement centers and individual officers are now routine and more praised than condemned by the left. California Governor Gavin Newsom is emblematic of this fury and frustration of the new obsessive compulsive left. His state is in free fall. Huge deficits, unfunded mandates, and the highest housing costs, gas prices, and income taxes in the nation force hundreds of thousands of residents yearly to leave. California's electricity and gas are likewise the costliest in the United States. The poverty rate is over 20% of the population. A third of the nation's welfare recipients live in California. Nearly half of its homeless do too. Newsom neglects all these existential challenges and instead seeks to outdo his leftist wannabe presidential rivals. Shortly after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Newsom tweeted an implied threat last Saturday to Homeland Security Director Kristi Noem, warning her that she was, quote, going to have a bad day today. You're welcome, America, end quote. He had also earlier threatened the president with violence, saying, we're going to fight back and we're going to punch this bully in the mouth. And Newsom had earlier extended the warning to half the nation of Trump supporters, I'm going to punch these blanks in the mouth. That is his apparently new talking point. The only mystery about the new obsessive-compulsive left is whether their vulgarity, violence, and crudity trickle top-down from the uncouth Democratic elites or rise bottom-up from thuggish Antifa, BLM, and the rioters who attack ICE and Tesla dealerships and disrupt Charlie Kirk's funeral service. So that's Victor Davis Hanson. I thought that encompassed a lot of what we talked about last week, so I wanted to bring it to you. I got a little tongue-tied. It's early on a Monday, so bear with me. Now, we got a couple of other updates when we come back. Your thoughts on Eric Adams dropping out of the mayoral race. And we had that comment from a viewer. Your thoughts, does it look like, it does to me, that Elise Stefanik will be running for governor? She has all but said so. But then again, she is not officially declared. So we wait for that patiently. Many people saying they're going to use, which we're going to talk about this in just a moment when we talk about New York State issues, but their inflation rebate check and donate it directly to Elise Stefanik's gubernatorial campaign. Got a big announcement. Before I forget, before we go to break, tomorrow on the program, we're going to be talking to Richard Thomas. You may know him as John Boy Walton from the Waltons. Well, he's going to be in town for Mark Twain Tonight, the old part played by Hal Holbrook, the part of Mark Twain, of course. He has taken this over, Richard Thomas, and we look forward to hearing from him on tomorrow's broadcast. Now, the Mark Twain Tonight performance at the Clemens Center will be October 14th and 15th, but you're not going to want to miss this interview. Very nice person. Amazing resume. Really very impressive. So we're going to be talking with John Boy Walton from the Waltons, Richard Thomas, on tomorrow's program. Right now, though, we need to take a short break. Stay with us. We're just getting warmed up on this Monday morning edition of Frankly Speaking.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When you're running, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
This is a Collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Time to get clean!
Yes, but that liquid detergent leaves you covered in harsh chemical residue. Not Earth Breeze. Just one sheet gives you a powerful clean.
Switch now at earthbreeze.com.
An albino buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horse heads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Day one of the National Glider Competition, severe flooding has caused major disruptions in parts of Steuben County.
Throughout the year, prison reform has become a priority around New York State.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer: be careful, New York. Your state is heading off the same cliff as California. Very, very accurate there. Very often, New York will take something that California does and attach it to New York state policy. So if there's a bad law that's passed in California, we'll emulate it, and vice versa. So you're very, very accurate with your statement. We are not that far behind California. We learned yesterday that President Trump plans to crash Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's gathering of the military's top generals on Tuesday. Hegseth recently summoned the top brass on short notice without telling them why, creating a lot of concern. You may have seen some of the coverage over the weekend where they're not sure what the meeting is all about. It then emerged that he just plans to deliver a rally the troops message. That's what was reported yesterday. Quote, "It's really just a very nice meeting, talking about how well we're doing militarily, talking about being in great shape, talking about a lot of good, positive things. It's just a good message," Trump told NBC News yesterday. "We have some great people coming in, and it's just, I don't know how you say this, just an esprit de corps. You know, the expression esprit de corps, that's all it's about. We're talking about what we're doing, what they're doing, and how we're doing," Trump said, adding that he would attend the event. Critics initially speculated that Hegseth may have been eyeing something drastic, such as a purge of leadership. In May, Hegseth, an Army National Guard veteran, trimmed down military leadership in a bid to boost efficiency. His directive is calling on all senior officials with the rank of brigadier general or above to attend the meeting in Virginia. There are more than 800 admirals and generals in the United States military. Oops, did I hit that button? No, I did not. Good. His directive is calling on all senior officials. Oh, I mentioned that. Those individuals are stationed at U.S. military outposts all over the world. Such gatherings are unusual. The meeting will take place about 30 miles outside of Washington, D.C. Hegseth has long been a staunch proponent of tightening military standards and reviving what he calls the warrior mentality. White House officials said Hegseth intends to be upbeat about the military's accomplishments and lay out his vision for the Department of War going forward. Trump, meanwhile, shrugged off initial panic from detractors over the summit, saying, "I love it. I think it's great. Let Hegseth be friendly with the generals and admirals from all over the world. You act like this is a bad thing. Isn't it nice that people are coming from all over the world to be with us?" The meeting will take place on the eve of the 11:59 p.m. deadline for Congress to take action to avert a partial government shutdown. And we're going to talk about that. The Democrats have been painted into a corner on the government shutdown, and they don't know how to get out of it. Even mainstream media outlets saying, which is not typical, blaming it essentially on the Democrats. So we're going to talk about that. But Trump going to attend that important meeting, and we'll know more about what is said on Tuesday. Also, going through some breaking story, the U.S. is preparing options for a military strike on drug targets inside Venezuela, according to anonymous sources telling NBC News, and that the attacks inside Venezuela and strikes within the country's border could potentially begin in a matter of weeks, according to 4 sources. Those sources are 2 U.S. officials familiar with the planning and 2 other sources familiar with the discussion. They spoke on the condition of anonymity, so take that with a grain of salt, because they're not authorized to discuss the plans publicly. Striking inside Venezuela would be another escalation in the Trump administration's military campaign against alleged drug trafficking and its stance towards Venezuela's government. In recent weeks, the U.S. military struck at least 3 boats from Venezuela, allegedly carrying narco traffickers and drugs that could threaten Americans. President Donald Trump said on Truth Social, "The administration has not provided evidence that drugs were on all those boats." I like how they always say that. Well, there was no evidence. Okay. But an official in the Dominican Republic, alongside one from the U.S. Embassy there, did say at a press conference Sunday that drugs were found in the water after one strike. Strikes inside Venezuela could happen in the next several weeks, but the president has not approved anything yet, according to the 4 sources. 2 of them and an additional official familiar with the discussion said that the United States' recent military escalation is in part a result of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro not doing enough in the administration's view, to stop the flow of illegal drugs out of his country. The plans being discussed focus on drone strikes against drug trafficking groups, members, and leadership, as well as targeting drug labs. Now, they said the attack on boats has sent a chilling effect to the drug traffickers, which is a good thing. As for comment, the White House referred NBC News to the previous statement from the president saying, quote, "We'll see what happens. Venezuela is sending us their gang members, their drug dealers, and drugs. It's not acceptable." Some Trump administration officials are disappointed that the U.S. military escalation does not appear to have weakened Maduro's grip on power or prompted any significant response. It says here the White House has faced more pushback on the strikes against the drug boats than it had anticipated, prompting the administration to think carefully about the next steps. The official familiar with the discussion said that includes discussions between the U.S. and Venezuela through Middle Eastern leaders serving as intermediaries. According to senior administration official, Maduro has spoken to those intermediaries about concessions he'd be willing to make to remain in power. The senior administration officials would not specify which countries are acting as intermediaries beyond saying that they are allies. Trump is, quote, "prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice," said a senior administration official. Also, your thoughts. Trump says he is ordering troops to Portland. He called the Oregon city war-ravaged in a social media post, saying soldiers would have the authority to use force. This is, of course, getting pushback. There's lawsuits already because of this. I'm trying to. There we go. Thank you. I couldn't see it. It's so dark out there. I thought I saw people waving. My two favorite walkers that walk by. Boy, it is staying. It's getting dark early, isn't it? Getting not as late as getting dark. It's hard to see across the street. President Trump said he was directing the Pentagon to send troops to Portland, Oregon to protect federal facilities, escalating his push to deploy the military in U.S. cities. Trump said in a post on Truth Social on Saturday, he was ordering Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to use the military to protect immigration and customs enforcement facilities, which he said were under siege from attack by Antifa. How do you like this? This is coming from, I think, the Washington Post, was it, or New York Times? A loose network of anti-fascist protesters that Trump recently called a terror group. "I am also authorized full force if necessary," Trump wrote, apparently referring to troops' authority to use weapons. The announcement was the latest move by Trump to push the boundaries of domestic use of troops, which had triggered fierce legal battles over the armed forces expanding footprint at home. Trump is also using military bases for migrant detention centers and has deployed National Guard troops to Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., and on the southern U.S. border. It wasn't clear whether Trump was calling for sending National Guard troops or active duty forces to Portland. Their mission, he said, was to, quote, "protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities." Oregon Governor Tina Kotek, a Democrat, said she told Trump and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem that local officers can handle protecting Portland. Quote, "There is no insurrection, there is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city." A group of Portland residents has protested outside of an ICE building in the city for over 100 days, and their standoff with federal police have led to arrests of some of the demonstrators. In a memo this week, Trump cited riots in Portland as part of the growing attacks on ICE agents. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said in a statement, "We stand ready to mobilize U.S. military personnel in support of DHS operations in Portland at the president's direction." Portland Mayor Keith Wilson said in a statement, "The number of necessary troops is zero in Portland and any other American city. Our nation has a long memory for acts of oppression, and the president won't find lawlessness or violence here unless he plans to perpetrate it." Wilson, a Democrat, said Friday that the city has seen a sudden influx of federal agents. Oregon lawmakers urged residents not to react to what they characterized as a show of force by the president. Quote, "Trump wants to tell a story of Portland that doesn't reflect who we are," said Democrat Representative Maxine Dexter. "The Portland we love didn't ask for federal agents and doesn't want federal agents." Jessica Vega Penderson, the chair of Monmouth County part of the city's metro area, said Friday that there has been reports that federal agents were sent to an ICE facility in southwest Portland and were seen in the area. A recent report from the Major Cities Chiefs Association, a group representing police officials, showed a decrease in violent crime in Portland. Isn't that always interesting? All these major cities have a crime issue until Trump says he's going to come in, and then all of a sudden it's the best crime rate in 30 years, right? Isn't that what they said about Washington, D.C.? And Democrats have found themselves in a very interesting place because they have to say, well, here's all the crime that's happened, but it's less than it was before, so we're all good. So we're fine with this violent crime. We're fine with these high numbers because we don't want Trump to successfully clean up the streets, so to speak. So there are lawsuits now, legal battles. There was a suit already announced by Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield within hours of Governor Kotek receiving a memo from the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth in which he authorized a troop deployment for 60 days. According to the order seen by Fox News Digital, the federal-controlled Oregon National Guard would be stationed in Portland to protect federal property, quote, where protests are occurring or likely to occur. Kotek, Portland Mayor Keith Wilson, and Rayfield, all Democrats, responded by jointly filing the challenge in federal court, arguing the administration's move is unlawful and unnecessary. Oregon communities are stable, and our local officials have been clear we have the capacity to manage public safety without federal interference, said Rayfield. On Saturday, Trump posted on social media, True Social that is, he had directed Hegseth to send all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any other ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. So there we are. We've got lawsuits. No surprise there. But, you know, they've painted, and I know I'm running really, really late, and I apologize, but I have to talk for just a moment about this attack on ICE, this attack on our troops. I don't know if you saw this over the weekend, but the season premiere of the Law and Order SVU program on NBC went hard against immigration and customs enforcement, portraying them as the episode's villains who invade ongoing court proceedings, are seen arresting New York police officers, and are accused of protecting rapists. That's in the season premiere of NBC's Law and Order SVU. And they try to fan these flames of hatred. We've got some of this rhetoric, and you were hoping, I know I was, that maybe we'd find that the rhetoric would calm down after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. If anything, it has been ramped up. We have Gavin Newsom calling Stephen Miller a fascist over the weekend. So many examples of this. And now a very popular show, NBC's police drama, Law and Order SVU, painting ICE as the villain. The episode, entitled In the Wind, begins with a rape being witnessed by an illegal alien who agrees to testify against the accused rapist in court. But when the court date nears, Ruiz seems to be missing, and Captain Olivia Benson goes to his apartment. When she arrives, she finds an ICE action going on, and Ruiz has fled the scene to avoid being picked up by immigration officials. I don't want to give you the whole rundown to the program, but they make very clear, the ICE is the bad guy, that they are painted as the villain. ICE is further portrayed as the bad guys later in the episode as they invade a courtroom while the rape trial is being conducted and again try to take Ruiz away. In the scene, the municipal judge gets the chance to attack ICE by bellowing, quote, "No, not my courtroom. Jimmy, tell them they can wait outside, but they are not welcome here," end quote. Unfortunately, nowhere in the episode is the real record of ICE truly relayed, and the NBC audience is never told that ICE arrests thousands of dangerous career criminals and illegal aliens throughout the United States. The episode, again, Law and Order SVU. So you see what we're going against with the propaganda in many ways. We've got a couple of other updates. Then we're going to get to Eric Adams. Your thoughts? I think, I don't necessarily like talking about New York City issues so much, but the mayoral race is a really important race because it paints a picture of what we're dealing with, not just at the state level, when we talk about Elise Stefanik potentially running for governor and potentially having a Republican governor, but also at the national level, where we talk about a Democrat socialist, Mamdani, being victorious, much like AOC, Jasmine Crockett, some of these other far-left Democrats who become the face of the party, what that means for the Democrats, what that means for the midterms, because it will have implication for the midterms, and it could have major implications for the gubernatorial race. If Mamdani gets in there and really messes up New York City quickly, which according to his policies I would believe would be the case, you could see that having real big implications against Hochul. But it's also interesting because Hochul, of course, endorsed Mamdani. So we've got a lot to cover. I know, I'm running late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Motorcycle riding season is in full swing, and there are more motorcycles on the road than ever before. Crashes involving motorcycles are often the result of a motorist failing to yield a right-of-way, or caused by a motorist who is distracted. And motorcycle riders are vulnerable and more exposed. So for them, crashes can result in serious injury or even death. Drivers and riders, we're all in this together. Please, be smart and pay attention to your driving. Share the road and watch for motorcycles.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Drive into fall event at Chilson Wilcox Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Buy a new in-stock 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn and save over $10,000. Or, attention business owners, buy a new Ram 2500 Tradesman Crew Cab and save over $11,000. Tailgate season is back. Hurry, these offers won't last. Drive into fall event. Don't miss out on these incredible offers. Chilson Wilcox Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Selling cars a different way, the right way.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing to keep us focused.
A habit we never skip, to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game? To drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health. Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mental health. Discover the resources that you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
Dante Brown.
The Frankly Speaking roof cam. Boy, that looks eerie this morning as well. Looks like fall, doesn't it? We are back. Thank you to Boss Security for bringing us the Frankly Speaking roof cam. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Before we get to Mayor Adams, well, we do have a viewer comment here. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. How did the auto pen miss a pardon for Comey? That's a very good question. We're going to talk about Comey a little bit later on, but I'm surprised he didn't get one of these kind of pre-pardons. But there's not a lot of Democrats don't necessarily like Comey either. He's in a weird place where no one really likes him. We're going to talk about that. One last thing, score another victory for President Trump in the high-stakes battle between Republicans and Democrats over congressional redistricting. GOP Governor Mike Keogh of Missouri signed into law a new congressional map, Missouri First, that is likely to hand Republicans an additional seat in the United States House of Representatives ahead of next year's midterm elections. Missouri, once considered a swing state that has dramatically shifted to the right over the past decade and a half, is the latest battleground in the congressional redistricting showdown after the passage of new maps in GOP-dominated Texas and a redistricting push by Democrats in heavily blue California. Keogh, the governor, said, "I was proud to officially sign the Missouri First map into law today ahead of the 2026 midterm election. We believe this map best represents Missourians, and I appreciate the effort or the support and efforts of state legislators, our congressional delegation, and President Trump in getting this map to my desk." Trump, in a social media statement following the passage, called the new map fantastic and said it will help send an additional MAGA Republican to Congress in the 2026 midterm elections. The new map targets longtime Democrat Representative Emanuel Cleaver's Kansas City area district by shifting it eastward to include rural, right-leaning voters. The new map would likely flip Cleaver's seat and give Republicans a 7-1 advantage in the state's House delegation. Cleaver has vowed to take legal action, saying, "I want to warn all of us that if you fight fire with fire long enough, all you're going to have left is ashes." That's what Cleaver said. And pointing to the recent public opinion polling, he called the redistricting plan immensely unpopular. And Missouri House Minority Leader Ashley Ahn accused Republicans of pushing to rig our maps and eliminate our representation in Congress. So that's just a quick update. I know I got to take a break already. Boy, this is a fun show this morning. We're moving along fast. So stay with us. Keep those comments. Keep those waves coming in. We already got 12 waves this morning. Wow, it's only 6:35. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Dear crew, with an adult-sized third row, everyone's welcome. From sports fans and eco-buffs to movie fans. Slip in, stretch out, and let's go. Toyota.
Right now, you can lease RAV4, the #1 selling vehicle in America, for just $299 a month. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. If you are just joining us on tomorrow's broadcast, we're going to be talking with Richard Thomas. You may know him from the Waltons, but he's coming to the Clemens Center on October 14th and 15th for Mark Twain Tonight. We know Hal Holbrook used to come to the area and perform it. Now it's Richard Thomas, and he's going to be joining us on the program. Looking forward to that very, very much. All right, so Mayor Eric Adams dropped out of the mayoral race yesterday. What was it, like a 9-minute video, which played I Did It My Way with Sinatra. He was under pressure to drop out because people saw him as kind of a hindrance to Cuomo. Many people, surprisingly, want Cuomo, thinking that he's the strongest candidate to potentially beat Mamadani. But even with Adams dropping out, boy, the numbers look very much in Mamadani's favor. The bombshell move came after weeks of back and forth over whether Adams would bow out of the race. He is polling fourth, Sliwa beating Adams. It's been an honor to be your mayor, Adams said in a video from Gracie Mansion. I am proud to say that we took that victory 4 years ago and turned it into action, making the city better for those who have been failed by government. He touted his victories over his first term, which included bringing crime down, building housing, and dealing with the city's brutal migrant crisis, but said that despite his administration's successes, I know I cannot continue my campaign. I strongly encourage whoever takes over City Hall to continue what we've done, said Adams. He did not endorse any of the candidates and even took a blatant swipe at Mamdani, issuing a warning about local government being used to launder radical ideas. The mayor also had a jab at Cuomo in the draft speech read to the Post, telling voters that a politician who repeatedly flip-flops on issues cannot be trusted. That part was admitted from the final version. Quote, "I want to be clear, although this is the end of my campaign, this will not be the end of my public service. I will keep fighting for the city no matter what, because I'm a New Yorker, and fighting for our city is just what I do." The mayor noted his campaign's inability to fundraise, taking aim at the city's campaign finance board for repeatedly denying him millions of dollars in matching public funds, which put him at a massive disadvantage compared to his opponents. The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise funds needed for a serious campaign. Now, he's been receiving a lot of pressure to drop his independent re-election bid, especially after Trump's Department of Justice dismissed his controversial federal corruption case. Quote, "I also know some remain unsure of me after the unfortunate events surrounding my federal case. I was wrongfully charged because I fought for the city, and if I had to do it again, I would fight for New York again," he said. So will this give a boost to Cuomo? Where do you see the mayoral race in New York City? Polls show Cuomo has the best chance of beating Mamdani in November, so long as it's a one-on-one contest. But Sliwa has vowed to remain in the race as the GOP's standard bearer, and his devoted supporters have argued that Cuomo, who is running as an independent after he was embarrassingly trounced by Mamdani in June's Democrat primary, should be the one to step aside. Adams has left the door open to dropping out in an interview with Reverend Sharpton on Saturday. Despite suspending his campaign, Adams will remain on the November 4th ballot, as will fellow independent candidate Jim Walden, who also dropped his beyond long shot bid. Adams' decision ensures his mayor term will end after his roller coaster first term and not with a humiliating, widely expected rout at the ballot box. So there we are. That was a big breaking story from yesterday. Adams dropping out of the race. Now, I know many people have commented on this program that they think it is unfair. The Sliwa does not get the attention, and I understand that. It was interesting to me that Adams got more attention than Sliwa, yet Sliwa was polling better than Adams. But many people are rallying around, if you will, former Governor Cuomo, thinking that he stands the best chance. But even if you look at the polls of a one-on-one contest, he is still double digits away from beating Mamdani. And this is an opinion piece from the Daily News, the far left New York Daily News, saying Adams was right to drop out of the New York City mayoral race. Now it's Sliwa's turn. Sliwa says he cares about the city, but staying in the race tips it towards Mamdani, who will hurt New York. Is that what Sliwa wants? Your thoughts on that? Now, the imperative is for Sliwa to also make the hard choice and withdraw. Running as a Republican, he scored only 28% against Adams 4 years ago. And this year, he would be lucky to get even half of that against Cuomo and Mamdani. In the 2021 two-man race, Sliwa was a very weak competitor. In a 2025 three-man contest, Sliwa would be a decisive spoiler, throwing the election to Mamdani, the Democrat socialist, antithetical to Republicans. Mamdani would wreck the city's hard-earned financial stability and bring us back to the municipal bankruptcy that we saw 50 years ago. He wants to raise billions in taxes for his schemes. It would pressure the legislature in Albany to go along or face primaries by his far-left allies. He has never managed anything of note, but should he win over the next 4 years, he would be in charge of close to $500 billion in city spending. He would go from an assembly office with a handful of aides to one of the biggest enterprises in the country with more than 300,000 employees. His views on policing are laughable and dangerous, calling for defunding the NYPD, which he called racist. He has recanted on defunding and promised an apology for that slur to the police officers who protect us, including the detectives on his own personal detail, but that apology has not come. We know about freezing rent. We know about his support for decriminalizing most forms of prostitution. He wants to get rid of mayoral control of the schools, a retreat on decades of progress, and Mamdani retains his hatred of Israel, despite weakly trying to soften it. Ego is very real, and it kept Adams, an incumbent with some real achievements in the race, always hoping that this thing could turn his way. It is an identical situation for Sliwa. He can't win. The race is between Cuomo and Mamdani. Sliwa says that they are both no good, and only he has the correct vision. That's what Adams thought until Sunday. Sliwa and the people around him need to come to the identical conclusion. He can't win, and he must get out of the way. Now, again, this is coming from the Far Left Daily News. I want your thoughts on it. Just as baseball now enters the playoffs, with poor-faring teams eliminated and done for the season, the poor-faring candidates like Adams and Jim Walden took themselves out. The last holdout of these guaranteed losers is Sliwa. His withdrawal will not decide the election between the seasoned moderate and centrist Cuomo and the callow and rigidly ideological Mamdani. But his continuation will immensely aid the leftists and his damaging ideas. A splintered field produces a muddled result, which is why we wish ranked choice voting applied in the general election, but it doesn't. Curtis Sliwa has been a character on the New York stage for nearly half a century. He has a difficult choice to make, and there's only one correct answer. He should say that he loves the city and put the future of his 8 million fellow New Yorkers before his own personal pride. It is not shameful to admit defeat and withdrawal. In this case, it is a noble thing for the sake of New York. Curtis, take your red beret and make your bow, and the city will salute you. That coming from the New York Daily News. Your thoughts on that? A couple other things on the mayoral race. We are going to talk about Comey. A couple things here about Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk. We also have some New York State updates. Couple of quick things about the Trump administration. That coming up here in just a little bit. So stay with us. I don't know where the time's going this morning, but we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
It's a new day. A day to do the work for those who need us most. At Feed the Children, we provide hungry kids with the food and essentials they need to grow and thrive. In the U.S. and around the world, you can join us and nourish empty stomachs to build brighter futures. Today is a new day, and together we can create a world where no child goes to bed hungry.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5:30 on Big Fox.
If you are one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. It's hard to believe that Cuomo couldn't beat the socialist. Cuomo knows every back alley in New York City and probably has enough money and fans to pull off the win. I don't know. There does seem to be, going back to his failed primary candidacy because he was so cocky and just thought that he had the win. And then, of course, he didn't really campaign and he got trounced. So I don't know. I don't think he has the popularity. If you look at the polling, Mamdani is well in the lead. Now, Governor Hochul, Reverend Al Sharpton, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries were among the political figures who praised Mayor Adams' mayoral tenure as he announced Sunday he would be ending his reelection. Hochul said, "I've been proud to work with Mayor Adams to make New York City safer, stronger, and more affordable. He leaves New York City better than he inherited it, and that will always be central to his legacy as mayor." who's this here? President Trump did not immediately comment on the mayor's decision to drop out, and talks between the two for a cushy landing spot at the end of Adams' mayoral term have reportedly broken down in recent days. But billionaire Bill Ackman, who has backed former Governor Cuomo in the race, celebrated the mayor's decision, saying, "Thank you, Eric Adams, for your service to our city and for stepping aside when the time was right. Curtis Sliwa, you should follow Eric's lead for the good of New York City." Who else we got here? Hakeem Jeffrey saying, "I will publicly weigh in with respect to the remaining candidates in the mayor's race well before the start of early voting. It's clear that meaningful progress has been made in several important areas during the term of Mayor Adams. Thank you for your service to our city." Now, Hakeem Jeffries has been receiving a lot of criticism because he has not endorsed Mamdani, and neither has Chuck Schumer, and some of these people are getting quite a lot of pushback because of it. Mike Lawler, who at one point it was looking as if he might run for governor, and then, of course, he announced that he would not be. Lawler wrote, "Eric Adams did the right thing for the city. It's now time for others to do the same. We must defeat Mamdani in November. I'm proud to support Curtis Sliwa and encourage everyone to do so." So he's taking the tack of Cuomo should be the one, because Cuomo is running as an independent. He should be the one that steps down, and then it would be a two-person race. Mamdani as the Democrat, Sliwa as the Republican. Now, we got to take another short break. Then when we come back, we're going to wrap up here, read some of your comments. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This is a Sue the Collector consumer alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Tired of paying for high-priced delivery? The Liquor Factory is now offering free delivery. You heard right, free delivery to Oreen, Gang Mills, Painted Post, and Riverside. Corning, you're in luck too. Free delivery with a $25 minimum order. Call store for details. Also, don't forget their 15% case wine discount. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram for weekly specials and tastings. The Liquor Factory, 285 South Hamilton Street, Gang Mills. Or call 607-937-WINE. That's 607-937-9463. The Liquor Factory, raising spirits, delivering fun in a bottle.
Football Show breaks down all things NFL. GMFB Overtime.
Check out top highlights, player interviews, special guests, and everything in between. 5 days a week.
GMFB Overtime. It's football for everyone.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. If New York City harbors a silent majority, I hope that they are silent on their intentions to vote for Sliwa. What a surprise that would be. Go Sliwa. I have a lot of trouble believing that a communist would get elected for anything. Well, prepare for it, because the polling shows that Mamdani is in quite the lead. Now, the New York Post and Henry Olson from the New York Post says that this gives Cuomo's mayoral bid new life, but there's some things he has to do if he has any chance to topple Mamdani. Mayor Eric Adams' decision to end the campaign is unsurprising. The scandal-tarred incumbent was running a poor fourth in most polls and has no chance of re-election. His choice, nonetheless, can have important repercussions. His withdrawal was the first domino to fall in the series of events Andrew Cuomo needs to have any shot of beating Mamdani in November. The polls clearly show how hard Cuomo's task is. The Real Clear Politics polling average has Mamdani ahead by a whopping 18.7 percentage points. Yes, he is in the lead by 18.7%. I've seen even higher. But that's from Real Clear Politics. More importantly, it shows Mamdani receiving 44.4% of the total vote. That's already likely to be enough to win in any sort of a two-man race. To win in anything short of a two-man race. I don't know why I struggle with that so much. His lead would still be in the double digits even if every single person currently backing Adams switches to Cuomo. Adams was receiving only 8.4% in the final polling average before his departure. Adding those votes to Cuomo's still leaves Mamdani with a daunting 10.3% lead. It's highly unlikely Adams' remaining supporters would switch to Cuomo in those numbers. The last three polls testing a three-man race, Mamdani versus Cuomo and Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa, shows Mamdani leading by 14 to 16 points. Clearly, many Adams voters prefer the progressive Mamdani to the old moderate Cuomo, himself tarred by scandals that forced him to resign from his governorship. Adams' withdrawal does, however, set up Cuomo's next and most important challenge, convincing Sliwa to drop out too. Sliwa's backing comes almost entirely from New York Republican minority. Those mostly conservative voters do not want the leftist Mamdani, but they also do not want the liberal Cuomo. As long as Sliwa is in the race, he'll get enough of those votes to ensure Mamdani's triumph. Sliwa wants to stay in the race, but it's impossible to see how he can win. He got 28% in the 2021 mayoral campaign against Adams, and President Trump won only about 30% in the 5 boroughs in 2024. Even Lee Zeldin won only 30.2% in New York City in the 2022 race against Governor Hochul. That's not going to be enough to win. The fact is that Republicans have never won a New York City mayoral race without winning liberal voters. LaGuardia won both the GOP and the City Fusion Party nominations in 1933, while John Lindsay, Rudy Giuliani, and Michael Bloomberg received either the Liberal or the Independence Party endorsement. Sliwa has no significant non-Republican backing and is unlikely to get any. Nor can Sliwa peel votes away from Cuomo to become the consensus anti-Mamdani candidate. Cuomo is getting the votes of moderate and establishment Democrats and independents and has the money to run the campaign necessary to retain their support. Sliwa can't attack Cuomo from the center and lacks the campaign infrastructure to make a dent in the expensive New York City media market. If Sliwa can't win, that leaves Cuomo as the only potentially viable anti-Mamdani candidate. But Adams' weakness means Cuomo's chance at victory requires convincing Sliwa voters to join him to stop Mamdani. That's much easier said than done. Cuomo can't get those votes by attacking Sliwa, who is well-positioned as the type of conservative Republicans prefer. Cuomo's lifetime of liberalism precludes him from winning GOP votes so long as Sliwa is in the race. It's unclear Cuomo would even win if Sliwa drops out. The three most recent polls testing a Mamdani versus Cuomo head-to-head contest still shows Mamdani comfortably ahead with between 47 and 49%. Those polls also show how reluctant Republicans are to back Cuomo, even against the socialist Mamdani. The undecided share of the vote in the Marist poll, for example, rises from a mere 5% in the four-way race to 12% in the head-to-head. Mamdani would only need a tiny fraction of that 12% to back him or decide to cast a protest vote for one of the minor candidates on the ballot for him to beat Cuomo. Cuomo will need a hammer to hammer Mamdani on the crime issue to have any chance whatsoever. And Cuomo has lots of votes to gain among voters who prioritize crime. He will also need to shift his strategy away from the media-reliant approach that characterized his primary effort and toward one that also has a robust ground game. Cuomo would be wise to target low-propensity older voters. Polls show him doing best with New Yorkers over 45, with volunteer efforts to convince them to cast early ballots. In short, Adams' retreat opens up a very tiny pathway for Cuomo to come from behind, but remains a daunting uphill climb. Only he is not likely to successfully, he is not most likely to successfully beat. Okay, sorry, I got distracted there. We're going to read some comments. We got a lot coming on in the second hour, so stay with us. Wow, time flies. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/BigFoxNews.
To get clean! Yes, but that liquid detergent leaves you covered in harsh chemical residue. Not Earth Breeze. Just one sheet gives you a powerful clean.
Switch now at earthbreeze.com.
You can just keep watching and scrolling, and the world will still feel like it's falling apart.
Widespread missiles.
Highest hospitalization.
Or you can take action by joining a movement that's creating real and lasting change instead. Partnering with communities around the globe to help uproot poverty and plant seeds of hope for a brighter tomorrow. Because at World Vision, we believe that no situation is hopeless. Join a movement that's changing the world for good.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We still have a lot to cover. We've been talking about the New York City mayoral race. We've got quite a few things here about Comey and the indictment of Comey and the government shutdown. The inevitable, it seems like at this point, government shutdown at the hands of Democrats. We'll be talking about that as well. If you are just joining us, I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, tomorrow on the program, right around 7:20, we're going to be talking to Richard Thomas. You may remember him as John Boy Walton from the hit television program, The Waltons. Well, he's going to be in town for Mark Twain tonight at the Clemens Center, which is October 14th and 15th. So we're going to find out all about Mark Twain tonight, how you take over the job that Hal Holbrook did for so long. He did such a wonderful job. And we might just get a chance to ask him about the Waltons as well. So Eric Adams is being praised for quitting the mayoral race. The pundits hope that this will move people to vote for Cuomo, leaving Mamdani. Cuomo saying the choice Mayor Adams made today was not an easy one, but I believe he is sincere in putting the well-being of New York City ahead of personal ambition. We face destructive extremist forces that would devastate our city through incompetence or ignorance, but it's not too late to stop them. Mamdani blamed Adams' decision on President Trump and maintained it won't change the outcome of the November election. He said in a statement, Donald Trump and his billionaire donors might be able to determine Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo's actions, but they will not dictate the result of this election. New York deserves better than trading in one disgraced, corrupt politician for another. On November 4th, we are going to turn the page on the politics of big money and small ideas and deliver a government every New Yorker can be proud of. Adams has been under pressure to quit his independent bid for re-election to clear the field for a stronger challenge against Mamdani. So your thoughts on that? Without Adams, should Mamdani be worried? They ask at the Intelligencer. What complicates Cuomo's path are his own significant weaknesses as a candidate. He is a lackluster campaigner with a thin field operation. The scandals of his administration, nursing home deaths and the pandemic, sexual harassment allegations that drove him from office, are well remembered. In the primary, he was able to benefit from enormous super PAC spending and the backing of many politicians and labor unions, only to finish a far distant second. Though frontrunner Zohran Mamdani has struggled to unify the full Democratic establishment behind him due to his socialist politics, he has far more support than he did in June. Many large labor unions have abandoned Cuomo to coalesce behind Mamdani. And enough top Democrats, including Governor Hochul, have offered endorsement, if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have been stubbornly neutral. What matters more, though, is that Cuomo won't have such a sizable super PAC behind him, and institutional Democrats would rather stay on the sideline than support him. The city's wealthiest donors, meanwhile, are mostly keeping their powder dry, waiting to see if Cuomo gains momentum or Mamdani runs away from the rest of the field. There's also no guarantee all of Adams' voters head to Cuomo. There are Adams supporters who regularly back Democrats and should be courted by Mamdani because he is the Democrat nominee. Cuomo, as an independent, is at a significant disadvantage. What will matter if Mamdani wins is what margin he finishes with. No mayor in the modern era has won with less than a majority of the vote in the general election. Sliwa has said he'll stay in the race despite pressure from Donald Trump to drop out, and this will aid Mamdani much more than Cuomo. Adams' decision to abandon his bid will complicate Mamdani's path to 50% and could, if the socialist finishes with a plurality, sap political momentum. The caveat is that polls in the primary underestimate Mamdani. None showed him anywhere near his margin of victory, which was 13 points. His vote skews younger and is harder to catch through traditional polling means. Cuomo's support could collapse in the home stretch, and Mamdani, despite a campaign that has lacked some of the energy of the primary, could secure his strong majority. The battle in the home stretch will be intense and inevitably bitter, according to the intelligentsia. So Miranda Devine says, if you are dreading Mamdani, get out and vote, New Yorkers. Now, of course, this is meant towards the city. But if only low-energy Andrew Cuomo or crime-fighting Republican Curtis Sliwa would follow Adams' lead, we might have half a chance of avoiding a commie mayor. According to the latest Emerson poll, Mamdani is a shoo-in to win in November. New Yorkers dreading Mamdani's tender mercies ought to get off their couches and vote for once. In a city where as few as 20% of registered voters bother casting a ballot, that means 6% of the entire population decided the fate of the rest. Apathy is our enemy. Now, John Ketchum suggests that the kind of the end of Adams' career is because he spoke truth to the Democrat Party and he was punished for it, which is kind of an interesting take on this. Adams was a common sense leader in nonsensical times, but like a Shakespearean character, his tragic flaw, misplaced loyalty, proved his undoing. All right, and there's also, and we don't have time to get to this, but there's quite a lengthy piece at the Wall Street Journal talking about, and it's kind of an interesting, fascinating article. We've got our street cleaner, if you wonder what that noise is. The rise of America's young socialists, from the 2008 financial crisis to Mamdani. For many on the forefront of the far left, the misery of the economic meltdown left a lasting impression. So how are the young people, the rise of America's young socialists, but they were affected by the 2008 financial crisis? What is their definition? Just out of curiosity, I don't have the answer for that. What is their definition of young when that happened nearly 20 years ago? But anyway, you see the rise of the young socialist with Mamdani's, the AOCs, all these other far leftists. That's why many people have speculated that Governor Hochul endorsed Mamdani because she was afraid that the far left socialist would primary her. So she decided to go all in and embrace Mamdani. Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer have yet to do so, but I think we'll end up seeing an endorsement, my feeling is anyway, from Hakeem Jeffries at some point. All right, so tomorrow, is it tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow, technically Wednesday at 12:01, we are looking at a government shutdown. By the way, you can continue talking about the mayoral race if you would like. I know we have some comments coming in, and we'll read those at the next break. But the shutdown staring contest heads to the whole Oval Office. Yes, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, after their meeting was originally canceled with Trump, there now looks to be a meeting in short time. Congress is locked in a staring contest with less than 48 hours until the government shuts down, and there's no sign either side plans to blink, and I don't think you will. I would say it's pretty safe to say there is going to be a government shutdown. Democrats are receiving criticism for it, but not enough so that they are, I guess, concerned. The standoff is raising the odds that agencies will at least partially shutter for the first time since 2019, when President Donald Trump backed down from a record 34-day shutdown sparked by his demands for a border wall. Congressional leaders each insist they don't want to barrel past the September 30th deadline, but they are quickly running out of time to find a mutually agreeable off-ramp. A make-or-break moment will come Monday afternoon, today, when Trump will meet with the top 4 congressional leaders at the White House. The sit-down rescheduled after Trump abruptly canceled a prior meeting set with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is the most significant development yet in the weeks-long stalemate. But after spending the past week hardening their positions and trading social media barbs, all corners are offering the same cautious note. The meeting could provide a path for a last-minute U-turn away from a shutdown, or more likely, it could all be a mirage that sends Washington careening over the funding cliff on Tuesday. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said in a statement that the meeting, fundamentally, nothing has changed, he said. However, he hopes Schumer sees the light and listens to the same voice that led him and 9 other Democrats to vote to avoid a shutdown under similar circumstances back in March. Schumer and Jeffries, in a joint statement, put the onus, you guessed it, no surprise here, on Republicans. Quote, "We are resolute in our determination to avoid a government shutdown and address the Republican health care crisis. Time is running out." What was their original proposal, like $1.1 trillion or more spending? Schumer and Jeffries will meet then with Trump. There are other signs that each side is preparing for conflict. In a bid to exert maximum pressure on the Senate, House Republicans do not plan on returning to session until after the government funding deadline and could stay out of town through next week. Senate Republicans are likely to wait until Tuesday to vote again on the House-passed stopgap bill that would float federal operations through November 21st, according to 2 people granted anonymity to discuss internal planning. Democrats who have already rejected that punt are so far uncowed. Jeffries is recalling his caucus to Washington for a caucus meeting and to hammer Speaker Johnson over his decision to not bring the House back. Schumer, on Meet the Press this weekend, crowed that the White House meeting was a sign that Republicans are feeling the heat, but if Trump uses it to rant and yell at Democrats, the visit will amount to nothing. Trump did just that ahead of his last shutdown in a December 2018 Oval Office meeting. At the time, he gave Democrats a political gift when he publicly took responsibility for closing agencies over his border security demands. So far, he hasn't given a repeat performance. He called Democrats crazy Friday and said if the government closes, they're the ones that are shutting it down. White House officials now insist Trump will pressure Schumer during the meeting to swallow the GOP-led stopgap without making a deal, at least not right now, on any Democrats' health care demands. Because right now it's just a clean spending bill just to keep the doors open to November 21st. That's why the Democrats have a hard sell on this to make it look as if it is not their fault. Senator Roger Marshall said, "I'd be much more worried if I was in a blue state," noting Trump gets to determine what's essential. Yeah, that is going to be interesting. Cutting off your nose to spite your face, you could say. Schumer said in the Meet the Press interview that Democrats need a serious negotiation, leaving himself options for what specifically would generate a shutdown avoiding breakthrough. Other top Senate Democrats have sent similar signals in recent days. Amy Klobuchar saying, "We never said that we had to have every single thing and everything is a red line. I'm glad that Thune's willing to talk, but simply promises that maybe will happen with Donald Trump. My guess is Senator Schumer will say, I need something more specific here." So we got a couple other things on that, what some talking heads had to say, but stay with us. We got to take a short break. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Want to read about ancient wonders? Go to your local library today. But this isn't your father's library. It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer or face off a dragon in the D&D club. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Create with the 3D printer or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
This is a collector Consumer Alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Cold Creek was once a thriving village, swallowed by silence and shadow. The town turned on a woman named Granny J. Hatchett. So that night, the townsfolk went into her cabin. They tied her to the old tree, and before she was burned, she said,
"You all will vanish like smoke, and when you return, you'll wear your sins on your skin."
Now, each October, the cursed souls return to seek vengeance.
But that's just a story, right, John? John, did you hear that?
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. The Democrats and the fake news push the idea that all health care is affected, when in fact only health care for illegal undocumented immigrants will not get health care benefits. How deceptive can these Democrats become? Yes, in the media playing right along. Comment from a different viewer, from Mark. I thought I'd never say this, but Cuomo is far better than Mamadani. No one needs a socialist. At least Adams let ICE into New York City to clean it up. He wasn't a bad mayor. Thank you very much. Brace yourself, says CNN. Government shutdown threat deepens as Capitol Hill digs in. Trump and congressional Republicans believe there's only one way to avert a shutdown at midnight tomorrow. Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer has to change his mind. GOP leaders still need critical votes from Schumer and his party to sign any funding bill into law, and for now, neither side is backing down. With just over 24 hours until a funding lapse, Schumer and his fellow congressional leaders will join Trump at the White House for a last chance meeting to stave off a shutdown. It's not clear, however, that either party is interested in a deal-making session. Speaker Johnson signaled in an interview with CNN that Trump wants to use the meeting to sway Democrats into accepting the GOP's plan without the Obamacare tax credits Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries are demanding. Quote, Chuck Schumer came back from a long laundry list of partisan demands that don't fit into the process. He's going to try to shut down the government. The president wants to talk with him about that and say, don't do that. He wants to talk with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and just try to convince them to follow common sense. John Thune, who will also attend the meeting, told Meet the Press it's totally up to the Democrats. Democrats, meanwhile, used their own appearances on the Sunday show circuit to stress that they would not be budging on their demands in exchange for helping pass government funding. Jeffries on ABC's This Week said our position has been very clear. Cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. Democrats have taken a hard line on demanding the extension of billions of dollars in Obamacare subsidies in exchange for the necessary Democrat votes in the Senate to pass a government funding bill. And the two leaders have been united going into Monday's meeting, issuing a joint statement saying we are resolute in our determination to avoid a government shutdown and address the Republican health care crisis. Monday's meeting will be the first time Schumer and Trump spoke since the president's second inauguration. The full Senate will return to Washington today, where the chamber will have one more chance to avoid a shutdown GOP leaders are planning to hold a vote on that same funding plan one more time before October 1st, but multiple Democrat sources told CNN they expect most of their members to hold the line. Jeffries told his members on a call on Friday that he had recently spoken with Schumer and was assured of the outcome, according to a person on the call. So there you go. There's a quick overview. Now, John Fetterman, who has somehow become kind of the voice of reason for the Democrats, he warned his party against allowing the government to shut down because if you have been paying attention to the news, there's 2 fast approaching hurricanes nearing the United States East Coast. Fetterman, who has also criticized past partial shutdowns, argued that allowing the funding lapse to take place could jeopardize response efforts to Hurricane Humberto, which was previously a Category 5 storm, and Tropical Storm Imelda. If you have a Cat 5 storm that's now facing our nation, why would you even have that conversation right now? I sure hope things work out and we don't shut the government down, Fetterman said. So again, we are looking at a partial shutdown after 11:59 p.m. Tuesday. Democrat leaders have been demanding key concessions from Republicans on health care policy, such as an extension of the COVID-19 era enhancements to the Affordable Care Act subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year, and a rollback of GOP-championed Medicare or Medicaid reforms. Hurricane Humberto intensified into a Category 5 storm Saturday, but was downgraded to a Category 4 storm on Sunday. Its current path has it moving out to sea. Should the government enter a partial shutdown, the Federal Emergency Management Agency will be restricted from renewing or selling key flood insurance policies. Most FEMA employees are expected to work during partial government shutdowns, but the agency's funds are quickly running dry, which would complicate its response to a significant natural disaster. Fetterman was the only senator who voted for 2 stopgap measures, known as continuing resolutions, that came up for a vote in the Senate just over a week ago to avert a partial shutdown. He backed both the clean continuing resolution championed by Republicans and the one favored by Democrats that would give them key wins on health care policy. Given the 60-vote threshold in the Senate that you need to break a filibuster, Republicans need Democrat support. Fetterman said, I am at where I have always been. I will remain on it. It is always wrong to shut our government down. That is a core responsibility. I'm always going to vote against those things. And it's the Republican side, or now it's our side. I'm going to condemn it. Overall, I've been pleased with the way the president has backed Israel. I think I was the only Democrat that supported the attack on the Iranian nuclear facilities. I do think it's astonishing that you have our allies going to recognize Palestine when you have human beings held underground, tortured, and starved going on 2 years. So there's John Fetterman, somehow becoming the voice of reason for the Democrat Party. Now, Stephen Collinson says this is a different kind of government shutdown. Coming from CNN, different kind of government shutdown. It would be like no federal funding crunch before it. So the shutdown brinkmanship will take on a wider narrative of whether a rampant president can be slowed or stopped on any issue. A rampant president. In recent days alone, Trump has ordered troops to Portland. This follows the dismantling of the Justice Department's independence after a newly installed prosecutor acted on demands to charge James Comey. Trump also plans this week to attend a gathering of top military brass, and the president is intensifying his assault on science. Trump is also asking the Supreme Court to strike down their right to birthright citizenship. This rush to hardline power plays follows 8 months in which Trump has constantly tested the Constitution and the law. This context of an aggressive president in a hurry explains why each discrete political battle, including the shutdown saga, becomes something more critical than the sum of its parts. They said that Trump believes he has the upper hand. I believe he does too. If you look at the headline to this piece, they even admitted that it's really the Democrats that have painted themselves into a corner, saying Democrats have a losing hand but may have to fight anyway. The complex psychology of shutdowns rests on each party believing that it has the capacity to inflict pain that the others will find so unbearable that it will have no choice but to concede. But it's hard to see in Trump's case how such a scenario would unfold. Democrats could trigger a shutdown of the government, but might find it hard to impose enough pressure to force Trump into any kind of compromise. They might suspect the Office of Management and the budget's threat to dismiss thousands of federal workers it deems unnecessary is a bluff, or that it would end up being reversed in the court. But Trump and hardliners in the OMB offices have sought such an opening for months. One potential risk for the president is that a shutdown could create new disruption to an economy already challenged by his attempts to gut the independence of the Federal Reserve and by Trump's price-raising tariff policies. For all the economy's resilience, a long-term shutdown that hurts growth would further anger voters who thought Trump would make their lives less expensive and more secure. And while Trump's MAGA fans wanted disruption, there's a growing sense, fueled by his assault on long-held health care guidance, his attempts to prosecute his enemies, and his strongman antics, that the chaos that marked his first term and contributed to his 2020 loss is beginning to gather once again. But the political choices are more treacherous for Democrats. They're fighting asymmetric warfare if the government is a hostage in the current funding battle. Trump may not care that much whether it makes it out alive, but there's a reason Democrats can't just let this moment of leverage pass, however insubstantial it may be. Their supporters are desperate for the party to stake out a line in the sand. Activist liberals want to fight back, seeks to finally start a revival following Harris's loss in November. Sometimes it's good for a party to pick a fight it suspects it may lose in order to rally its supporters or to offer the definition to a cause. In this case, the Democrats are demanding Trump accept the extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies set to expire this year, which would cause insurance premiums to spike. Shutting down the government over the issue would focus attention on Republican policies Democrats argue will seriously restrict Medicaid. This would give them a jump on a message they hope will shape next year's midterms. Heaven forbid the Republicans shut down the government, Schumer said. The American people know it's on their back. First, they're in charge. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency, so they know they're in charge. Second, everyone knows that you need a bipartisan negotiation to get this done. The American people do. But third, there's going to be a huge pressure on Republican senators, congressmen, and even Trump to do something about this horrible health care crisis. Is this the right time for the fight? Stephen Collison asks. Still lacking decisive leverage, the question remains, is this the smartest time for Democrats to have this fight, given a political deck that is weighted against them? If they don't fight, they will look weak to their supporters and only invite more intimidation from Trump. But are political conditions any different now than in March, when Senate Democrats promised their supporters a fight and then caved? The capitulation only exemplified the party's toothlessness. Standing down again would be a bad look when the first hints of resistance to Trump are emerging nationwide. In such an atmosphere, a new Democrat surrender on Capitol Hill would invite mockery, but that doesn't change a political battlefield that favors Trump. We're going to move on from that. Your thoughts about the government shutdown? I'd love to hear from you. Again, oh my gosh, how late am I running? Am I really running that late? All right, let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Sophia A., grade 4, absent, because transportation was absent.
Julio M., grade 6, absent, because Wi-Fi was absent.
Maria J., grade 12, absent, because childcare for siblings was absent.
Jacob O., grade 12, absent, because housing was absent.
Aisha S.,
Olivia H.,
Darren L.,
Cole W.,
Preston L., absent.
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 Because healthcare, anti-bullying,
Mental health support was absent.
We're calling roll on the 15 million absent students.
Their reasons why are very real.
And yet the solution is a present, caring adult to help them along their path.
When communities and schools is present, 99% of our students are present and ready to learn.
Dear Coach.
Dear Coach. Dear Coach, they don't teach you that inner strength is the most important kind of strong, but you taught me that.
They don't teach you how to build confidence in yourself or how to deal with all the pressures all at once, but you taught me that. first tee was more than golf. It's where I discovered what I'm capable of.
You didn't just prepare me for 18 holes. You were preparing me for every day of my life. Learn more at firsttee.org.
We've had many wonderful memories as a family. Dropping Shelly off at school, I prayed he wouldn't get stuffed in a gym bag. We may not be perfect, but to me, we have the perfect family.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This viewer writes in, please, for the love of God, shut the government down. The sky is falling. The wolf is at the door. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, wouldn't it be amazing if the sheeple actually got engaged and opened their eyes to see the legacy media and Democrats' only agenda? They don't care about the American people. They only care about themselves. That has been clear for many years. They open the borders to let everyone and anyone to augment the census, to change the Electoral College, and eventually install new Democrat voters. They're fighting hard to not let the Trump administration deport the illegal immigrants. They want as much division in this country as possible. They won't debate the issues. They just call the other side names. And the most recent, they are willing to shut the government down to try and ensure that illegal immigrants are taken care of instead of taking care of the American people. Frank, how do we wake the sheeple up? That's a great question. It's $1 million question. How do we get people more active? How do we get them to see the truth when they are being inundated with so much propaganda? Great question, Ken. I wish I had an answer. If I had an answer, I'd probably be in Washington, right? By the way, so James Comey's indictment, I guess there was a kind of a stunning revelation by none other than Michael Cohen. He was on MSNBC on Saturday, and he says he believes that James Comey likely committed a crime while reacting to news of the indictment. I believe likely he will be found guilty, said Michael Cohen. I believe likely he committed a crime. I don't know what that crime is, but there are hundreds of thousands of documents, and the government has each and every one of them. All they need to do is find that one. I've been through this system. I know better than anybody what a weaponized DOJ looks like and feels like. It is insurmountable. We also heard from over the weekend, pundit Dan Abrams said, when you talk about Andrew McCabe, for example, the Department of Justice Inspector General looked into that, listened to what McCabe said, listened to what Comey said, and said we find Comey's account more credible than McCabe's. And that makes that particularly interesting, is that they almost indicted McCabe back in 2019 for lying about the same conversation. They couldn't get a grand jury to indict. But now they're going to indict James Comey for that. So I don't think that's what this is all about. I think in the end, this is about another conversation. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't even think that Trump, or that many in the Trump administration, believe they're going to get a conviction. I think that there's a 95% plus chance that there won't be a conviction. That it'll either get dismissed by a judge, there'll be a hung jury, there'll be an acquittal. But I'm not certain that that's the end goal here. And that's what makes this so unusual, because typically a prosecutor's office will not bring a case unless they think they can win it. Chuck Schumer said no president has weaponized the DOJ like Trump. I have no faith in Donald Trump's judicial system. He has turned this judicial system to be his own political fighter, to what he wants politically, so he tells them to go after people he doesn't like. He tells them to exonerate people that he likes, that he doesn't like. So many people are getting pardoned and this and that. He has turned this Justice Department into his own political watchdog. It's horrible. No president has done this. This is what autocrats do. This is when Trump says he wants to be king to do it. So when he says he doesn't like Comey, look what happened there. The prosecutor who he appointed said there's not enough evidence to indict Comey, and he fired the prosecutor and put in someone else. Trump has done so many things to undermine our democracy and undermine our norms. And this is one of the very worst. Chris Christie said Trump has made it nearly impossible to get a conviction on Comey. As someone who prosecuted these kinds of cases, the fact is that the president has made it nearly impossible now to get a conviction because of the things he said, the way he's prejudged the evidence, the way he said he's a liar, he's guilty, and the way he directed Pam Bondi by saying, Pam, it's time to do this. When anyone knows that the statute was getting ready to run, the 5-year statute on this statement was getting to run out on Tuesday. So that was the imperative that the president was talking about. It's clear. And so he's made it very difficult for any prosecutor to be able to get a conviction on this case because on the face of his comments, he says, go get this guy. That's not the president's job. And in fact, the jury may look at this. And certainly, as Dan said, a judge will look at this. The other problem is that we have a situation where everyone else that was waiting to see who is next. And when he was asked who is next, he said there will be others. Now, Miranda Devine has a very good piece, and I know I've got to take a break here. But she says this is a reckoning of James Comey's own making and Democrats for weaponizing the justice system first. In the wake of Comey's indictment, Democrats like Richard Blumenthal and Eric Swalwell are issuing dark warnings with a straight face that what goes around comes around, and that anyone who cooperates with Trump's vengeance prosecutions will face retribution when Democrats are back in charge. But their threats fall on deaf ears because they started it. Democrats long ago weaponized the justice system against their political opponents. Let us count the ways. On Joe Biden's watch, Trump faced 4 separate indictments with 88 criminal charges. More than 1,500 Trump supporters were arrested and over-prosecuted in the January 6th investigation. Trump advisors Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro were jailed for contempt of Pelosi's J6 Star Chamber. Trump advisor Roger Stone was arrested at dawn in a heavy-handed SWAT raid. Comey entrapped Trump National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn. The DOJ, FBI, and IRS covered up Biden corruption and jailed whistleblower Gal Luft and Alexandra Smirnov, to name a few. Conservatives of every stripe were under legal assault. The FBI spied on school board meetings and Catholics at Latin Mass. FBI agents were subjected to politically motivated loyalty tests to weed out those suspected of supporting Trump. Joe Biden pressured Merrick Garland to investigate Trump and lay off his son, only he did it through anonymous leaks to the New York Times rather than out in the open on Truth Social. So it's quite a lengthy piece. We can't get to all of it. But the indictment of Comey is only unprecedented in the sense that Republicans have not played this game before. Now they're on the field and it's scorched earth time. Expect more indictments as soon as this week. It's not revenge. It's accountability. It's a necessary squaring up, evening the ledger, building deterrence. As Trump said last week, you can't let this go on. They're sick, radical left people, and they can't get away with it. So there's your update on James Comey. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine rentals, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
This is a Sue the Collector consumer alert. Hi, my name is Jared Johnson with SueTheCollector.com. Did you know that repossessions are on the rise in America? If your car, truck, or motorcycle has been repossessed by an agent that broke a lock, assaulted you, or trespassed on your private property, you have rights. Call us for a free case review at 1-877-BAD-REPO. You pay nothing unless we win money for you. Call me now.
Time to get clean!
Yes, but that liquid detergent leaves you covered in harsh chemical residue. Not Earth Breeze. Just one sheet gives you a powerful clean.
Switch now at earthbreeze.com.
It's great to catch up, Jamie. How's business?
Good. Are you up to speed with the new beneficial ownership reporting requirements?
Sort of. What's it about?
It's a new initiative to help fight crimes like money laundering, fraud, and drug trafficking. A lot of small businesses like ours just have to report some basic info to the federal government about the real people behind them.
Does that include my cafe?
There are some exemptions for certain companies, but don't worry. There's lots of guidance on the government's website about who needs to file. Check out fincen.gov/BOI. Filing is easy and free. It took me less than 20 minutes.
Looks like I do have to file. Thanks, Jamie. It's great having a supportive business community.
Reporting beneficial ownership information helps protect U.S. national security. Filing is quick, secure, and free. And it's the law. Learn more at fincen.gov.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We got a couple of viewer comments here. Ken writes in, shortly after Kamala said they need to fight fire with fire, people died and a church was burned. Yeah, the rhetoric is very scary, Ken. I would agree with you. Gavin Newsom calling Stephen Miller a fascist over the weekend, saying these horrific things. Not toning down the rhetoric whatsoever. Comment from a different viewer. Chris Christie is wasting his talent. He should be operating the elevator in the UN building. Thank you very much. Thousands of Penn State fans wore that iconic Freedom shirt of Charlie Kirk's in a tribute to him at the game, which that was his favorite team, Penn State. Footage and photos of the students in their shirts went viral across social media. Oregon, which was Kirk's favorite Oregon, which was Kirk's favorite college football team, went on to win the game in a 30-24 thriller. Oregon defense back Dylan Bainman pulled in a game-sealing interception, ensuring Kirk's favorite team won in front of thousands of supporters wearing his signature shirt. Conservative influencer Benny Johnson organized an event that handed out 5,000 of the shirts to fans ahead of Saturday's game. Johnson shared footage earlier on Saturday that showed a line of people waiting for the shirts. The line wrapped around multiple sections of the parking lot, with the crowd cheering as he bragged about the length. Eventually, a loud USA chant broke out. Turning Point USA announced its event to give away 5,000 of the T-shirts to fans who attended the Oregon versus Penn State game. Kirk wore the now iconic shirt on September 10th as he spoke at a Utah Valley University event when a single shot was fired from the roof of a nearby building, killing him. Johnson announced in the vein and in the honor of Charlie Kirk, we are going to fight cultural battles and we are going to win them in the arena that Charlie loves so much, college football. Now, they're calling it the Charlie Kirk effect. Ministers are seeing a faith revival in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills pastor Jack Hibbs told Fox and Friends first that people are asking his church for answers. People are coming to us and they're saying, I want to know the meaning of life, the purpose. Why am I here? He's calling it the Charlie Kirk effect. I have had the honor of knowing Charlie Kirk well and personally for many years now. I cannot express how incredibly proud I am that I have been of his faithful Christian witness and the way he has honored the Lord Jesus Christ with his life. Charlie was known as an intellectual giant, a very compassionate young man, and one who was tirelessly devoted to the nation's welfare and our glorious republic. I am humbled and blessed to have played a small role in Charlie's discipleship, and I know nothing was more important to Charlie than knowing Jesus Christ. So they're calling it the Charlie Kirk effect on Sunday, more people attending church. But the New York Times correspondent and the author of 1619 Project, Nicole Hannah-Jones, she's been unsettled by the outpouring and the public mourning of Charlie Kirk. She said in the wake of Kirk's death, individuals and institutions across the nation moved not just to condemn his killing and political violence, but to venerate him. It was unsettling to many to see politicians from across the political spectrum speak with reverence about a man who espoused the racist Great Replacement theory, which argues that white Americans are being systematically replaced by multiculturalism and by brown and black migrants, Hannah said. She added that Kirk contended that black people commit more crimes than white people and that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. She also rejected efforts to celebrate Kirk as a champion of free speech, claiming that would lead to mainstreaming of formerly extremist views. As the Trump administration wages the broadest attack on civil rights in a century, and the shared societal values of multiculturalism and tolerance recede, using Kirk's knack for vigorous argument to excuse the reemergence of unabashed bigotry in mainstream politics feels both frightening and perilous. Now, interestingly enough, I mentioned how John Fetterman has been kind of the voice of reason in the Democrat Party as he voted for the continuing resolution. He shared a study that showed that left-wing terrorism has reached a 30-year high and criticized his fellow Democrats for using rhetoric such as Hitler or fascist. In a post that was included in an article at Axios titled "Study, Left-Wing Terrorism Climbs to 30-Year High," Fetterman noted that political violence is always wrong and calling for everyone to turn down the temperature. Unchecked extreme rhetoric like labels as Hitler or fascist will foment more extreme outcomes. Political violence is always wrong, no exceptions. We must all turn the temperature down. But as I said, Gavin Newsom, who wants to be president, he did not get the memo or did not care. He said Stephen Miller is a fascist on his X account in all caps. Newsom launched an anti-Semitic attack on Miller, who is Jewish. In Newsom's post, he referred to Miller as SS, using an acronym for the Nazi Corps. The epitaph came in a post on X by the governor's press office account, the official public account of the governor's press office, which, we know that he uses serious information and then attempts to troll Trump. We saw the popularity of that amongst the Democrat Party with his trolling by trying to emulate how Trump speaks. One other thing, well, we got a couple other things on this, but I do want to get to New York State issues, and I will read some of your comments. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will be right back.
William Mattar has been a great brother, but I was surprised to learn how many people knew he was my brother.
William Mattar's on this?
Oh, brother.
Because when Big Insurance finds out that he's on a car crash case...
So who's on this?
They hired William Mattar.
Oh, brother.
Word travels fast.
You know, they got Mattar on this. Mattar? Oh, brother.
Hurt in a car? Call my brother, William Mattar. 444-4444.
You lather, rinse, moisturize, repeat, and repeat. But it never feels like enough. It's not your products. It's your water. Hard water leaves a mineral residue that clogs pores and dries out hair. Culligan water softeners remove damaging minerals, revitalizing brittle hair and dry skin. Upgrade your shower and skincare routine with Culligan, water you love.
It's the best 2 hours of NFL coverage, starting with Fox NFL Kickoff at 11.
This is great TV.
It is caught! Then at noon, take it to the next level on Fox NFL Sunday.
This kid has it all.
Touchdown! America's #1 pregame show. The best NFL pregame shows are back-to-back.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Rick writes in this morning. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Well, I didn't get a chance to watch much of what is going on in Dictatorshipville over the weekend. I did get my weekly dose of Bill Maher, though. Awesome. He had Mike Smerconish, who was awesome, and Nancy Mace, who was weak. She wasn't going to cross Trump on a bet. Speaking of bets, does anyone think Trump will go after Bill Maher? Hope not. Bill tells it the way it should be told. Sugarcoating was over a month into Trump's first term. Guess we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Rick. I did see that Bill Maher called for Stephen A. Smith to run for president over the weekend. I think ESPN, right? ESPN host. Democrats need an outsider, Bill Maher said. I see somebody right there in my Zoom camera. Speaking of Smith himself, I think somebody with that kind of abandon is the only person who's going to win back former Democrat voters who have switched over. I'd have to give up too much money, said Stephen A. Smith. I'm not giving up my money, man. I'm not giving up my money. Bill Maher also said that he needs that we need as a country a return to old America, and tells the left to scale back the radical ideology. If we're ever going to get back to the old America, that's going to be the Democrats' part of the bargain. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas, and then in the next breath insist that there be no debate about any of it. That's a fair point. And when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society, often pointlessly, even if we have to cancel democracy to do it. And he goes through some examples of this and how it's some of the more radical ideas. I'm not going to go through all of some of the language, but he said he mocked Democrats' smug self-righteousness in defending some of the dumbest ideas to ever come down the pike. Here's the one thing I can promise every liberal in this country. The Democrats can win every election from now until forever, and the people who now hold the reins of power will not give a darn, we'll say, and will not give it back if they think you're still nutty. All right, New York State time. Governor Hochul sending out a press release yesterday saying, I hear from families every day who are feeling the pressures of high prices. Making New York more affordable is not just a goal, it's a responsibility I take seriously. From day one, I focused on putting money back in people's pockets. This week, we're delivering on that promise. Inflation refund checks are officially on the way to help ease the burden of rising costs. More than 8 million New Yorkers will get an inflation refund check of up to $400. Deliveries will continue through October and November. While some may receive theirs sooner, every eligible household will get their check. No forms or sign-up required. If you qualify, your check is on the way. Whether it's rent, childcare, prescription, or getting behind on bills, I know how fast expenses pile up. This money is meant to ease the burden. I want to hear how it will help you and your family. And you can go to her website and talk about how that $200 is going to be life-changing. Up to $400 is going to be life-changing. As a young parent to 2 kids, I remember sitting at the kitchen table, looking at the bills and wondering how we'll make it all work. I've sat down with moms in diners and walked the grocery aisles with seniors who've shared how rising prices are making everyday life harder. That's why I'm putting nearly $5,000 back in the pockets of New Yorkers this year so you can buy the necessities with less stress, raise your children with the support they need, and enjoy life without constant worry. From expanding the child tax credit to a historic middle-class tax cut, inflation refund checks, and free school meals, this is a relief you can feel. Your family is my fight, and that fight continues every single day. So what are you going to do? Kathy Hochul makes it sound like you win the lottery. What are you going to do with your $200? She's also warning of scams targeting people with these refunds. Hochul said in a statement that they can come in the form of text messages, voice messages, emails, and direct mail to taxpayers. The scams often claim that New Yorkers must submit accurate payment information in order to receive an inflation refund check. She says the New York State Tax Department, the IRS, will not call or text New Yorkers asking for personal information. And if you receive one of these messages, block the sender, delete the message, and report the scam to the tax department or the IRS. All right, we're going to wrap up reading your comments and getting ready to end today's edition of Frankly Speaking, so stay with us.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Is this your mom?
Yes.
And that's your dad?
Nope.
I'm the father.
Even if you're the father, you're lying.
My family does not like my boyfriend.
Solid family.
I've had enough of this. I'm not your mommy.
Now you're just talking crazy.
Don't do that. I'm not your auntie, I'm your mother.
Can't cross mama and come in here and get treated nice. Your case is dismissed and so are you.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple of viewer comments. Looks like Newsom is getting desperate, says this viewer. I'm thinking his name calling will just make him look worse. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer happening now. Pentagon seeks Trump's approval for first U.S. military execution in 60 years following the Fort Hood mass shooting. Thank you very much. Couple last things to go through here if you get a chance. Charles Gasparino has a very interesting article out. We're not going to have time to get to all of it, but Trump's FCC is not going after free speech, but the left has been stifling open debate for years. That's been the narrative, that the FCC is silencing you, silencing Jimmy Kimmel, these type of things, but that's just not the case. If you look at the history, it was coming from the left. We also have, a couple other comments here. Oh boy, a $200 check. I'll tell Hochul that I'm going to do with it right now. Donate it to Elise Stefanik's campaign. I think that's a great idea. Thank you very much. Yeah, $200. She makes it sound like you just won the lotto. All right, coming from a different viewer. Somebody needs to tell Hochul to get out of her bubble. Visit any red state. We just did, and the economies of those red states are booming. Thank you very much. Michael Goodwin has a piece as well. Yeah, we are out of time. Michael Goodwin says, Netanyahu's message to the UN is clear. Israel cannot be forced to destroy itself with a Palestinian state. And you can find that at the New York Post. It's a very good piece, saying now in the 20th year of a 4-year term, he is widely unpopular among most Palestinians and Israelis. This is Mohammed Abbas. He lost control of Gaza in 2005 when most residents there chose Hamas in elections, and there's no desire for him to return, and Hamas would not likely cede its rule to him. None of this is to say that peace could not be given a chance, but there will be no peace if Hamas has any role in post-war Gaza. Also, boy, they said that Marjorie Taylor Greene is straying from Trump and kind of reflecting an emerging MAGA split. The right-wing Republican congresswoman from Georgia has grown disillusioned with her own party and with President Trump, and increasingly is willing to say so. Interesting. Also, if you want to do some extra, I know I'm giving you all this homework as we're heading out the door here. Trump's cashless bail reform is a good step. There are 5 more we need right now, according to Randolph Rice. And we talked about the failure of bail reform like we've seen here in New York State. It says, without well-trained, properly equipped police, arrests don't stick. Good policing is more than putting handcuffs on a suspect. It's building a case that can survive in court. Even with strong police work, justice fails when rogue prosecutors refuse to enforce the law, which we've seen. Trial judges wield enormous power in determining justice, yet many state appointment and elections have filled benches with judges who care more about politics than public safety. The solution? Mandatory minimums. Legislators are already realizing the unchecked judicial leniency has swung the pendulum too far. Finally, we must fix parole and probation. These agencies are supposed to monitor offenders after release and keep them from reoffending. Instead, lax supervision has become a backdoor for criminals to commit new crimes while technically still under state supervision. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to be talking with Richard Thomas. You may know him as John Boy Walton from the hit program The Waltons. Well, Richard Thomas is going to join us because he's going to be Mark Twain, and Mark Twain tonight at the Clements Center, October 14th and 15th. So he'll be joining us on tomorrow's broadcast. Don't miss it. And make sure you tune in every weekday morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already.
Release a brand new 2025 Hyundai Tucson SEL all-wheel drive featuring power liftgate and heated seats. No money down for only $369 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Hyundai in Big Flats.